Welcome back to Made in Spain. Today we're heading straight into one of the most delicious corners of the country, Bilbao, a place where a bar snack might just beat your last fine dining meal or a Michelin star, and where the stars shine brighter than the Guggenheim's titanium.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would say it's a photo finish
Oh, yeah,
for
absolutely.
that.
So we're here with you, co-host Laura Senior Garcia and
Nalini Sharma.
welcome back to Made in Spain,
Yep.
episode two, season three. Today's episode is Michelin stars, pinchos, and perfect bites. Why Bilbao tastes like no place else.
I would agree with that. It really is, it is a wonder when you start wandering through the streets and you see the pincho bars. I think that that whole scene really began after you had this revitalization of the city. So you get, new ideas, you get new inspiration. And I think things grew from there because I don't think before Bilbao would be considered a foodie city.
I don't think so. I will say that one thing we have to really keep in mind when we talk about food in the Basque Country, I've always thought that it is probably one of the best regions from a quality of produce standpoint.
Right.
Now, again, we're focusing this mini series on Bilbao, but San Sebastian and
Oh,
other areas as well. Absolutely amazing food, amazing restaurants. And I think in today's episode, what is quite exciting is that we're looking at the contrast. You're looking at the contrast of the simple, affordable pincho and the Michelin star kind of high end fine dining experience. So we've got two really ends of the spectrum when it comes to eating out in the Basque Country.
okay. So should I just start with
Yes, please.
okay.
Tell us a little bit about the part of the topic that you're going to be uncovering for
Okay.
our listeners.
So we're talking about Michelin star restaurants. Now,
Hmm.
for some people, this would be a huge driving point that they want to go to a Michelin star restaurant, that it's kind of like their hobby or a passion of theirs. For me, it
The
is
foodie,
not.
but the foodie travelers,
The
like
foodie
the
travelers.
foodie
Yeah.
travelers are you will have people, the list just came out. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's like OEA or something. It's one of these lists that, kind of identify some of the best restaurants in the world.
Right.
And it was a bunch of them for some reason are in Denmark, for
Oh,
example, this
interesting.
year, like three of them or something. But there is so much tourism centered around just going to try some of these restaurants that make it on these top 10 lists. I mean, they create a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. For me, I am not a person who's driven by eating at a Michelin star. If it happens to be a Michelin star, that's fantastic. But I am not necessarily going to seek it out because, particularly, just I think at the stage of life I'm at, it's more about being out with the people that I care about because I'm not going to go out just to have dinner or a lunch with whatever, a casual acquaintance. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But I value that time and it's
So you
more,
you safeguard your energy,
yeah,
your space, who
exactly.
you're eating with, who you break bread with.
Exactly. So it's more about where I am with those people and that experience. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be Michelin star, although we did eat at a Michelin star in Bilbao. Now, according to the MichelinGuide.com or its
Mm-hmm.
guide Michelin.com, that's the official website, there are about 34 Michelin star restaurants, not just centered in Bilbao, but in Bilbao
In
and
the
the
surrounding
surrounding
area.
region. Okay, so if you're interested in eating at a Michelin star restaurant, you can go on the website and you can just sort of filter through the different types of restaurants. It's actually very simple. They also have sort of the dollar signs, very typical, where you can see the cost if it's, $4 or two, what have you. And I'm going to mention three restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
One is the restaurant we ate at, which was Kimchoo, slightly, I would say Japanese fusion.
It's like Asian fusion
Right,
with, so I would say the fusion was between Asia and typical Spanish produce or Basque
right,
produce.
right. So I booked the restaurant, and actually, for the whole trip, I had several restaurants booked. I made reservations, and I would also recommend that to anybody going to a big city. We've learned our lesson about turning up last minute and expecting everything to be completely empty, and we'll get a seat, in the front on the patio. It doesn't work. Real life does not work like that. You have to
Sometimes it
plan.
works out
Yeah,
that way, but it doesn't work like that.
sometimes, but I thought, listen, we're not going to get burned. We'll make reservations. So I looked at the Michelin guide and I booked two restaurants. We actually only ended up eating at one, which was Kimchoo. And our taxi driver, he said, "Oh, you're going to love that restaurant." He said, "I don't even like Asian food, but I like that restaurant."
Let me ask you a very serious
Mm.
question. Did you like it?
Okay, I liked it. I completely enjoyed the food, but I also come from a city where in Toronto where you have far less expensive Asian food
Mm-hmm.
that is, I think, better. But I enjoyed our experience going to it. The service was really good. They had it's very funny because they opened at 8 o'clock and I had the reservation for 8 and I think we arrived 5 to 8
Yeah.
in the evening. And we thought, oh, this is so tacky. Like we're standing outside, we're all like dressed up for dinner and we're standing outside as if, I don't know, we've never
Don't
seen
have
food.
anything else to do
And we
in our
thought,
lives
yeah,
other than go line up for dinner.
yeah, and we thought, oh, maybe we should just go get a drink across the street or I don't know, make ourselves inconspicuous. But within 2 minutes, an entire group of people showed up at 8 waiting at the door. So they opened the doors at
With a
8
baby, by
with
the way.
a newborn baby.
So this is a good note also when we discuss, Bilbao, Basque Country, tourism in general in Spain. It is very widely accepted in most places to go with your kids, take your kids even till the wee hours of the night. It is okay for the most part. After you share a few of your picks there, I am going to share a specific
Story.
story from a Michelin experience. But I do think, and the reason I asked, did you like it, the kimchi? I fully respect and understand that there are a lot of people that, the Michelin experience is the epitome of, something they want to be a part of. I'm starting to figure out that you and I may not be in that group of people. I think that we like, the
I think
idea
we
of
are.
it, but
Yeah.
I don't think either of us are quote unquote fine dining people. I think we love food, but I don't think that kind of whole, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But anyway, let's go
Okay.
back to kimchi.
So kimchi, do you remember what the bill was? I don't remember.
It was
150?
just under 150.
Okay, so
So
150
140 something,
euros.
145 euros.
Euros
And
for
there's
four
four of
people,
us.
four
Yeah.
people. And my kids eat quite a bit, so
Yeah.
we ate a lot less than they did. But so
Yes.
it was, I think, for a Michelin star restaurant, um,
Extremely
affordable.
affordable. And
And
that's actually something worth mentioning. That is a trend happening here in
yes,
Spain.
and I would say particularly in the restaurants that we looked at, or when I was going through all the, Michelin star restaurants, they have a la carte
Yeah.
or they have the fixed menu. So you can choose either. And if you choose the fixed menu, I mean, it's per person, what have you, and you have a range. You can have a lower end, which might be maybe 60 euro for a couple of
I actually think the
dishes.
most affordable kimchi menu, the closed menu,
Mm,
was just over 30. So
yeah,
there are some very affordable options if you want to have that Michelin
the
experience
experience. Yeah.
without breaking the bank.
Yeah. You might be hungry or putting dinner rolls in your pocket, but you can still have the experience of it.
It is quite interesting that we ordered bread 3 times. So, I
Yeah.
mean, can we have another basket of bread? Just,
Actually, they only charge for one,
yeah.
so it was good on them. And it's not to knock Kimchoo. It was a
No, it's a
fantastic
great,
experience,
great
but
restaurant. I think it's just a reflection for us that I think we probably enjoy, the tabernas, the
yeah,
tascas, the pinchos, the tapas, all of that, I think is more enjoyable for our kind of eating style
yeah.
than the sit down for 3 hours or 2 hours and also the closed menus. Because I also think that both you and I are not big eaters, whereas so other people may be and they may enjoy that kind of lengthier process.
No, I can.
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
sit that long. All right, so we have Kimchoo. We have Nerua, which is in the Guggenheim, and I actually looked at booking there, but I thought there's no way my kids are gonna sit here for an hour or 2 hours, possibly. They have a particular menu where you sit at the table
Hmm.
and you're right outside the kitchen and they bring all the dishes to you. So I don't think you get to choose in that situation. And also, I don't know how much it is. But this particular, so I just printed off here, the menu. So for example, you have peas with squid sabayon and fenugreek for 35 euro. This is at the Guggenheim, right? So you would eat inside. That's like I would say an appetizer. You have fried cod with spider crab and biscaina for 35 euro,
Vizcaya, yeah.
right? So you have that. You have the dessert. It's called the Carolina. Strawberries, roses, coconut, and pepper
Oh, that
for,
sounds nice.
it does sound nice, for
Yeah.
12 euro. We did not eat here. Oh, they also have, which is I think my son's nemesis, pigeon. Because he's like, why is there a pigeon on the menu?
On a bunch of different menus, even at our hotel.
Yeah.
Pigeon cooked two ways.
Yeah. So anyway, this is just an example. So the Guggenheim has a Michelin star restaurant. And listen, it looks so beautiful and such an
Gorgeous.
interesting experience. Probably not one you would do with, your entire family.
No.
Definitely if you want to have, I don't know, it's a special, you're on a special trip or maybe a girls' trip or with couples. Why you're laughing?
I'm going to provide, like I said, a perspective on the whole Michelin experience from a
Yes.
date
From
standpoint.
a date. Okay, so we have that, and then we also have. I actually looked to try to book this restaurant, but it was full when we were
Mm-hmm.
there. It's called Wamen,
Mm-hmm.
which is Peruvian food with a Basque flair, and their tasting menu is 60 euro.
That's good.
So, and that's their summer menu, which I think is, I don't know. I mean, let's say you were to book a girls trip
Yes.
or whatever, a little getaway, and I'm just saying a girls trip because I don't know if boys a guys trip would be in Bilbao to go to Michelin star restaurants, but
It
maybe.
just very much depends on the individual,
Right.
for sure. I think just the men that we have in our life are just not, Michelin star fine dining friendly. I will say it like that.
No. Um, so if you were to book, even if it's a group trip and you look at these restaurants, the good part about it is that you have the, a la carte menu, but you have the also fixed menu so that there's a budget. So you know actually how much money you're going to spend on dinner that particular night.
Mm-hmm.
These most of the menus do not include the wine tasting. If you want to do the wine pairing, that's, I mean, it's not really, it's usually a lot less than the actual menu, the cost of the food, but you can also just order a glass of wine.
So do you remember we were walking around the city and we saw one of Berasategui's
Yes.
restaurants
Yeah.
and remember the prices
Yeah.
for, so I think the one with the pairing was 270,
Yes.
and Martin Berasategui, he has like 12 Michelin stars. I think he is one of the chefs with the most Michelin stars. So, and he's Basque, so it's pretty interesting. There is a whole culture around Michelin stars in the Basque country for sure.
In Spain, like on the whole, we have a Michelin star restaurant here in our little town, and we've never been.
Yeah. So quick story then,
Yes.
but I will say this, and I want to shout out to all these amazing Michelin star restaurants here in Spain that, do have these affordable options. Because I remember actually being in France and Paris and wanting to do something special with my brother, and I looked at some of the Alain Ducasse restaurants,
Right.
and I was like, oh, we're gonna go for a Michelin star
Right.
experience. And then I started looking, okay, how much is this? How much is this? The cheapest one I could find was 300 euros per
Right.
person. And I
Right.
said to my brother, look, I'm taking you to Burger King. And then it's like, we can spend that money on something else. I cannot bring myself to spend that amount of money on a meal. But going back to the little story, which was in Madrid actually, but it was about a Michelin star restaurant. So when I first started dating my husband and I didn't know
Oh
his
my God, this is
food
funny.
taste
Yeah, it's
very
funny.
much, I decided, that I wanted to impress him with, the culture here and all this kind of stuff. And again, he's Canadian, as you know, and I said,
Don't blame the Canadians,
no,
Laura.
no, 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 I won't. But I decided I was going to impress him, and we're gonna go to this place in Madrid called Diverso. I
Right.
don't know if Diverso is still open. I believe it is. Actually, it is because it did make it on that
Oh, the
list
list. Okay.
that I mentioned to you, and it's by the chef David Munoz, and he actually has a really cool documentary on Netflix. He's very out there, and I've always really kind of admired him and the way he does research. And I'd never been to one of his restaurants at the time. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to go on this like amazing date experience to this Michelin star restaurant, which by the way is extremely hard to get a table at.
Right.
I think I tried for a year.
Oh,
I beef
wow.
so So even before we were dating,
Right.
I was trying to get into that
Yeah.
restaurant. So I was like, finally, this is going to be a great experience. We're going to go to the show and so on and so forth. So, it is without drinks, it is a 500 and something euro,
Mm,
not per person, but for two people.
that's a
And
lot
you
of
have to
groceries, Laura.
Yes, it is. And you have to prepay because guess what? You can't book something like that and not show up, which, again,
Okay.
fully respect. So, we show up at this restaurant. The first part of the meal at the time, you're actually behind a curtain by yourself. You don't know who else is eating in the restaurant. And there are waiters coming in and explaining everything that you have in front of you. So the first, and this, there was no option there to have a la carte. It was a
Mm,
closed menu. So I'm thinking, okay, I've done fine dining experiences before. These are very small portions.
right.
Usually they're very small portions. And it said the smallest menu was a 13 step
Okay.
experience.
Okay.
But, I thought, okay, fine. Like it will be tiny and it'll just be a bite of this, a bite of that.
Right.
So the first dish they bring out, it was like a journey through Mexico or something like that, and it had like three plates, and I'm thinking, oh yes, that's like three plates down from like 13.
Yeah.
It literally like crossing off in my head. And it was quite a substantial amount of food, and it came along with like a shot of mojito and this and
Oh
that.
my goodness.
And the waiter came out and he's explaining it, and that is our first course. And I'm like, oh, you are kidding. So
Wow.
that was the first of 13. By the time we got through the meat dishes,
Mm.
I actually asked the waiter to skip the four fish dishes. And
Oh,
he told me that the chef was going to be very offended. And I said that, either you eat this for me or, yeah. And my
right.
poor husband at the time, which again, I'm going to specifically call out one of the ingredients. The waiters are coming along and they're explaining what's on the dish.
Mm.
And the waiter looks at me and he's like, okay, and here we have da 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 da, an octopus sperm. And he's saying it in Spanish.
Yeah.
And my husband's looking at me, what did he just say? I was like, oh, nothing. Just eat it. Just eat it. Don't even think about it. So after that, I think it was years before I ever went close to a Michelin star restaurant because it was absolutely a stressful experience. So it was so overwhelming.
It
And
would
this
be.
was the first time this time around in Bilbao.
Okay. Oh, that you've gone. Oh, really? Oh, ours was easy then. We just
It's
ordered some.
very easy. That's why I'm always like, I don't want closed menus. I don't want closed menus.
No, it's too much. But we had a nice, it was a really
That's
nice
lovely.
time. And then in typical Nilini and Laura fashion, we went to bed at, I don't know, 9 o'clock.
Yes, I was like, I don't think we're really living the Spanish dream here, but we did make it. We did make it one night past midnight, which we were very proud of. I think it was just past midnight.
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay, 11:30.
11 because
Okay,
our hotel restaurant closed at
okay, yes, yes.
11 and we ordered at 10:40.
They were ushering us. So,
Yeah.
if you are a Michelin star fan, you have plenty of options in the Basque Country. There is one, I know you don't eat beef, but there is one that you can particularly look for that is supposed to be one of the best beef restaurants in the world. It's actually near Bilbao, and we'll include that in our socials. So please, if you love those kind of experiences, great place to check them out. And if you want to mix the cultural and the artistic side of it, the Michelin star restaurant at the Guggenheim would
It,
be
I
an
mean, really,
amazing option.
it's a I mean, it's a beautiful building, and it would be honestly, even if you didn't like everything on the menu, it's still. I always say it's still an experience, even if so, unless something is, I mean, horrific. But
Even if like this wonderful co-host of mine, you're taking a fish and putting it like a little anchovy and putting it on the person next to you, it's like, I don't like the way that
I don't
looks.
like it. Laura and I have, I think we have our own unspoken language, so I'll put things that I don't like on her plate.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm good with it. So
All
awesome.
right. Now of course we have to talk about the pinchos.
Pinchos
Okay. So that is something, first of all, explain the difference between tapas and
and
pinchos.
pinchos. From the research,
Mhm.
which not sure it translates all the time, but from the
Right.
research, pinchos are, if you think of what we did in our last episode,
Right.
where we had one little piece of bread and something quite elaborate,
Right.
on the bread, be it, it could be with crab, with foie, with this, with that, but it's just contained on a piece of bread, and it usually has a pincho,
which is
a
toothpick,
toothpick,
toothpick.
that is actually on the bread. And I think it's Pintxo.
Right,
Again, going back to the whole spelling in Basque. Tapa usually is free and
right.
it comes with a drink. Your pincho is not free. Like your
No,
pincho,
you're
you
paying
have
for
to
it.
pay for, and usually you use the toothpicks to count how many pinchos you've had and to tally up your bill.
Right.
So there, in some places, they don't write down every time you order
No, you
one.
show
You
your
just show
toothpicks.
like how many toothpicks you have.
Apparently, tapas is from the tapa, like cover. Like you use it to
Oh,
cover your drink
yeah. So if because the dish is
or
small
small
and you just kind of put it on.
over your drink.
But again, as things evolve,
Yeah, it's
when we went to Granada, for example, and we mentioned it in season two, a tapa, sometimes if you have a few tapas, if you have a few
no.
drinks, you are eating like that is a meal. Like,
No, no.
it
In
could be
Granada,
paella,
they serve I like 250 € for a huge glass of
vermouth.
vermouth with the soda.
Yes.
And then they bring you a small plate of meatballs, which are maybe like, quite large. And you're
Yes.
not getting one meatball, you're getting three or four. So if you eat that and you drink your vermouth, y- you're kind of full.
Yes, and tapas don't specifically come on bread. It
No,
may be like a paella, a little bit of paella, or some meatballs, or it could be, some prawns. There's a lot of variety for
it's a
what it
snack.
could look like. It's a snack. It's a small portion.
Right.
It's a ration or a small
Yes.
portion. A pincho is very, very specifically supposed to be
With the toothpick and also
on a
on
piece of bread.
bread. Okay, so here is the okay, so what do you know what the original pincho is?
No, tell
So it
me.
is the Gilda.
Gilda.
Okay,
Oh, my
however,
favorite.
in English it would be pronounced Gilda, and I'll
Yes.
tell you why. All right. So the story goes, and I don't necessarily believe any of these stories, but it is just, I feel it's like folklore that, people.
Internet folklore
No,
about
but I think it's
food.
like the bars that adopt the story behind
Hey,
it
if it works,
because it just adds some, mystery to it and
some
a little,
flair.
yeah, flair to it. Okay. So the story goes is that the pinchos were invented in San Sebastian.
Okay.
All right. At this bar called Casa Valles.
Okay.
And it was not invented by the bar owners. It was the Hilda, which is Gilda, a anchovy, an olive, the
Hmm.
manzanilla olive, and the pepper, the
Oh, I
pickled
love
pepper,
those.
right?
Yes.
So the story is that they have a bar patron, an older gentleman, who I cannot pronounce his name because there are many X's in it. So I'm not going to try. But do you know this expression, like to prop a place up or to prop the bar up? Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's as if that person is there, and they're if they weren't at the bar, it would just fall down. Like
Yeah.
they're there all the time. Story is this older gentleman in the bar all the time, always drinking, sees, that they have all these separate things. So they
Yeah.
might have served a little few peppers or maybe a few olives or a few the
Anchovies.
anchovies. There was, he skewered it and put
Hmm.
it on one and ate it, and it became sort of a joke. But then everybody else in the bar started asking for this. This is in the
Are you
19 Yeah,
serious?
this is the story
Wow.
from Casa Valles, all right? From San Sebastian. Story is that they adopted it and they named it Hilda, or Gilda in
Yeah.
English, because it was named after the actress Rita Hayworth.
No way.
The movie Gilda was released around the same time this started to come about. And Rita Hayworth is actually from Spanish descent.
No way.
Her real name, she born Margarita Carmen Cancino. Not born in Spain, born in America, but her father was from Sevilla.
How do you get from that to Rita Hayworth?
Her mother's last name. Her mother was
Wow.
Irish and had the last name Hayworth. So she's an, up and coming actress and
In a
adopts.
time where it wouldn't have been fashionable to have a Spanish.
No.
Yeah.
So she adopted a very American style name.
Yeah.
The movie Gilda was sort of spicy, a little bit controversial for the time. So the owners of the bar decided to name it that because the Gilda is a bit spicy and
Please tell me
salty.
this bar's still open.
It is open.
Okay, we're going.
It is open.
That's the next trip, San
Right? It's
Sebastian.
pretty cool.
Yes,
Don't you think?
absolutely. It is so cool.
Okay, all of that could be literally fake news, but
I tell
That's
you
what
what,
the bar has it on their website. All right.
if
So
it is fake news,
it's good fake news.
whoever owns that bar is a marketing genius. That is amazing. I love Gildas. It's like one of my favorite things, especially when it's hot and you're having a beer and you have like, the toothpick, and especially because, as you know, I like, chilies and hot stuff, and it's like, and it's interesting because in Spain usually people don't really like things that are too spicy.
No, but
So,
it has like it's just the combination of it. It's
mm,
a an odd combination, but it caught on. And then from there it started to spread. One restaurant maybe copied the other, and
every
then
market has like
right.
these little stands that you can go buy Gildas.
Right. I mean, listen, it might have been created as well in the south of Spain or on the,
Please
West
tell us
Coast.
if you have an alternative story that you want to propose.
I think it's a
The
nice story though.
conspiracy theory about the Gildas, we'd love to hear it.
But then because it is it's a foodie scene, it starts to evolve. And like everything, bars have to establishments have to make money to get people to drink more. You make small salty snacks. You make a small salty snack, you eat that, you're thirsty, you're drinking more. Then you say, wow, that looks good. And we
By the
also
way, those things are good money makers when you think
absolutely
about it, because they're, in many places they're like €2 or something like that. You are talking about one olive, one anchovy, one chili. In some cases, one piece of cheese, one quail
right.
egg, because you can find them with just about anything on there. The little red peppers with the feta cheese inside.
100%. And
Yeah, they're
also,
so
you
good.
eat with your eyes. So when you go into a pincho bar, you will see a counter full of different little snacks, all the different things. And then you, of course, you think, oh, that looks good. I'll have that. Okay, let me have a drink first. Then I'm going to have that. And then, you know what? I'll have another drink and I'll have that. That's how,
Yeah,
that's exactly how I
absolutely.
think it evolved.
So, by the way, I will say this. If you are listening to us from the US in particular, I'm not sure about Canada, but one of the things I have been very pleasantly surprised about there is the amount of Basque restaurants
Hmm.
in the US is pretty amazing. And
Interesting. Yeah.
actually, the one of the oddest things I remember culturally is being in Bakersfield, California,
Oh,
which is a interesting part of the world. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
And there's a huge Basque community there, which
Wow.
was like, what? What's going on here?
The
And there was
Basque.
even like a Basque club that, people got together for food.
Wow.
So I would say that, if you are in that part of the world, look for a Basque restaurant. Go try the food. Even if you're not traveling to Spain, it can be really interesting. Usually centered very much around meat. That is true. But, I think there's some great experiences to have there.
Yeah, and I think also for the Pincho bars, it's really something to see because the way the city in Bilbao is laid out, you have alleys, or I should say alleys, it's
Yeah.
roads where there are only bars. So it's one bar after another after another. It's just as far as you can, look down the road.
And they're very visual when you walk in and you see these bars with like hundreds of different, little pinchos,
Yes.
very colorful. What was your favorite one? Of the pinchos we
Uh,
tried, which
I
one
would
kind of stands out?
I would say it was the one we had with vermouth,
Yes.
which was tuna.
Yeah.
We had a tuna and it was super yummy. But and then the vermouth, I mean, this is really super hilarious. You asked for what we thought would be vermouth with a soda in it as something sweet, which I don't even know why. It's you who ordered it, by the way.
Yes. It's my fault. I'm
And
sorry.
typically, I don't think they drink vermouth at that time. So we looked
No,
like real tourists.
yeah, it's like kind of ordering sangria with paella for
Yeah,
dinner. It was
yeah.
not good.
I don't know why we anyway. He just poured a very large glass only with vermouth.
So these,
No mixer,
to-
nothing.
touristy ladies here, yeah, you can just go ahead and get drunk on this whatever
And then we
vermouth
had to
is.
ask him, we're like, do you mind putting a mixer? And he's like, do you guys want that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, oddly enough, nobody thought you were Spanish.
Oh no, I was impersonating a Canadian person for 4 days.
So fun. The taxi driver actually said to you, wow, good job on your Spanish.
I was like, yes, I know. I'm so proud
And I said, that's because she is Spanish. And he's like, oh. And that opened the whole book of his dissertation
of
that he shared with us. I don't know on what, but he was
Yeah.
very animated in his
Yeah, absolutely.
conversation. It was very funny.
Last mention before we move on to our slice of life when it comes to trying food and, Michelin-star pinchos we've mentioned for Bilbao. Recommend there are these bakeries in
Oh yeah.
Bilbao called Arrese,
Yes.
Arrese,
Yes.
and they are very famous for their palmeras, which the
Oh, they're
translation
delicious.
would be palm trees. I'm not sure whether they're called palm trees, but basically what you're looking for is this pastry that looks like a big heart
Yeah.
dipped in chocolate. They're absolutely delicious. They make them on a daily basis. They sell thousands of them
Hmm.
across the city. And I don't know how much butter is in one of those things, but a lot. So, heart risk warning. But for two of them, it's like €5. And, something that you could dip in coffee. It's so good. So,
Listen,
really recommend that.
you can eat your way through Bilbao on, I mean, you can have a big budget, you can have a very simple budget, but it is really, truly a fantastic place to eat and just sit and watch the world go by.
Absolutely. Slice
Yay.
of
Slice of
life.
life.
All right. Slice of life. So, cheers.
What are we drinking, Laura?
Red wine, chacoli, actually. So the chacoli is usually white from what I know, but today we're having a red chacoli wine.
Okay, I haven't tried the red one yet, so I am addicted to chacoli, which is white wine from the Basque region, and it has become a staple in my house.
It is delicious, and we try ordering it everywhere we go as well, but we're not getting very far with that, especially because we're so far away from the Basque country here that, in a lot of places don't have it unless it's specialized. And we're trying the chacoli with an idiazabal.
Okay, spell that, Laura.
Oh, it's a hard one. Idiazabal. Idiazabal. And it's from the Basque region. It's super delicious, like very, very tasty.
Okay, and we're also having some cheese.
Yes, and this one's made from sheep's milk.
Right, sheep's milk. Okay, I'll try it. I don't like goat cheese, and it doesn't taste like a goat. So, yeah, the fact that it doesn't taste like a goat or like a sheep, I like it.
Okay, so it's got some flavor, but it doesn't have like that goaty taste, you could say.
Right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about now the food you can experience in the Basque Country, and it is vast. I mean, there are so many different areas that you could focus on, but a main area is shellfish and fish.
Absolutely. So, because the region is obviously so close to the Atlantic, the quality of the shellfish and the fish is absolutely amazing. Specifically, I would like to recommend that people try. I believe that the best months to eat shellfish in the Basque Country is September to December.
Okay.
That's when they say the shellfish is at its best.
Because the water's quite cold.
Cold, I believe it's
Okay.
because the water's cold. But the one thing I definitely want to point out from the shellfish that I think is worth a try, and I don't think I've seen it outside of Spain in many places, is something called tamburiñas.
Okay.
I would describe them like baby scallops. So
Okay.
they're like a smaller scallop. They have like this little red claw that comes out of it. You also eat the claw. It's not really a claw, but it's shaped like a claw. So that's the best way I can describe them. And they're delicious. So tamburiñas, definitely worth trying. So I absolutely love those. So definitely recommend that. And then the other thing that is worth trying, but it's a little bit different because it does look kind of a little iffy, is something called a percebe.
Okay.
And those are like sea snails.
I don't like those.
Have you tried them?
I think I know what they look like. I won't eat it.
It smells very, very strong. So
I have a visual of it. I'm not eating that.
it really is. It actually is worse looking than a land snail, you could say, because
Right.
it's this little black mollusk, that then I don't know. The other thing as well is I have a really strong smell, so I would do the tamburiñas. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But the percebes, interestingly enough, they're extremely expensive.
Of course.
Like, it's very, very expensive. And the other ones that are kind of cool, I find, are the razor clams.
Razor clams.
And their translation is exact. In Spanish, we call them navajas.
Oh.
And it's because they kind of look like a razor. And those are really good as well. But a little on the tougher or chewy side if you don't get them super fresh.
All right.
So that's something to keep in mind. And finally, I think worth mentioning as well is the changurro, which we actually had in the sushi that we had in the Michelin-starred restaurant. And that is a spider crab. And it is delicious from this part of the country.
I think we should also let people know that if you take a day trip outside of Bilbao and you go to the north to a seafood restaurant, I would highly recommend making a reservation because especially if you're there, I mean, people who don't understand this, the Basque region, the weather is really hit or miss. In the summer, it's nice and warm. That's great. But come probably, I would say September, October, it's very rainy. That doesn't mean it's not busy. So you're going to get the best quality seafood, but you should definitely make a reservation. Now, we took a day trip outside of Bilbao. We went up to Getxo and we booked into a little Italian restaurant, which was actually really delicious. I mean, I would highly recommend it.
Super fresh, right? And it was Casa Liotta.
Yes.
And it's a chain. So it's not pizza, it's pinza. And it's kind of oblong. And they do have a website, and you can see, you know, which kind of restaurant is which, because they have one in Bilbao, they have one in Getxo. So that's one of the restaurants that we visited. So definitely recommend that one. As Nalini said, definitely recommend looking into booking a seafood restaurant while you're there as well. And also, if you want pizza, as mentioned, the Casa Liotta also has one in the center of Bilbao. So that I would definitely go for.
And make a reservation because we went and thought, oh, nobody will be there, and it was full.
And then we had a meal also in another really cool place that was called Happy River, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that was really cool. It's right beside the river.
Yeah, and we ate some really delicious food there. So that was fusion, and I believe we had sushi and tacos.
Possibly. I mean, the menu is quite vast. I had my Chacoli wine.
Yes.
Even though they are known, again, for their Bloody Marys. But I think the takeaway for us is that compared to where we live and you travel to a bigger city, you really do have a vast choice of international food. And honestly, Bilbao does not disappoint. And even though we are in a very touristic area, I would say, we don't always have that international choice here, but the bigger cities tend to.
I think the distinction as well is that because we are in a very touristic area, I don't think a lot of the restaurants rely on, you know, the people from the area coming back. That was also my experience in Barcelona. Unless you go somewhere that is a short bet from the locals, that people know where they're going.
Like their little neighborhood bodega.
Exactly. You're very likely to get a restaurant that doesn't really care if you come back because there'll be more tourists inside, you know, the door. Now, that is not the case with Bilbao. And I think it's not the case for most of the north of Spain, because although there is a lot of tourism, it's not as heavy as the tourism industry here. So I think that's a huge distinction. The food, I think, tends to be just higher quality because they are relying a lot more on return customers who are locals.
Yeah, I mean, you have a vast array of choices in the north. You can eat in a pincho bar, you can have delicious pizza, you can have takeout, fast food, Chinese, Japanese. We also found an Indian restaurant. Whatever you want, it's readily available. You know, you don't have to eat in a Michelin-star restaurant there, even though there are many, and most of them are relatively affordable, and I'll put that in quotations. It is affordable for a Michelin-star restaurant. However, you can, you know, just have a pincho, and they have beautiful coffee shops there as well.
Yes, for sure. Coffee, and we love our coffee, and I believe we've talked about the beautiful
Oh,
palmeras.
those are delicious.
Yeah, so you grab a coffee, you grab a Palmera. It's definitely not an expensive breakfast or a nice little afternoon meal. And I think it's something that you can just take the city in next to the river. It's a definitely recommended spot for the food lovers.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about our hotel experience. Do you want to start, Laura?
Yeah, sure. So, part of this travel experience of doing the podcast is really to be able to understand the places that we're going, to be able to share on socials, some recommended spots, be it, a little bit higher budget or lower budget that people can experience and explore. In many cases, when we talk about somewhere, we are not being paid to talk about that place. So,
No.
Marriott is definitely not sponsoring us.
No, we
So-
tend to stay in Marriott hotels because our spouses have Marriott points.
Yeah, and
or
they have Marriott
rewards.
status.
So that's typically where we end up staying because it either helps them or helps us.
So for this particular trip to Bilbao, we stayed at one that was pretty fancy. I would say it was an
Yeah.
autograph collection, which is always a bit of a hit and miss. And it was the Ercilla autograph collection. And it's I kind of like our experience in Granada better, although, Granada was a little bit strange, I would say, in terms of the hotel from an autograph standpoint. But really, the location of the hotel is fantastic. The one in Bilbao, I would say the food was pretty good. The breakfast was pretty good, but the service, really not that great.
No, I mean, the one thing I will say about Autograph, the brand itself, the hotels tend to be located almost on the most central street in a city. You're not going to find it near the airport or in, sort of a secluded area. That is the one thing I do like about the Autograph collection. They don't necessarily have a lot of amenities. It's really a small gym. There's maybe not a spa. You can't beat the location. But we did find that the service was a little hit and miss.
Especially the front desk.
Yeah.
Shout out, however, to the one person that kind of saved my life was, it was so noisy in the room because the air conditioning was broken, and I called the front desk at 11 p.m. and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like I'm in a 737 in the room. And he actually came and, opened the air conditioning unit, did something and said, do you need the air conditioner? I'm like, no, just turn it off. I cannot sleep with that amount of noise. So he kind of saved my life.
And the rooftop bar, as we were there in the city and we thought we'd do a little planning session, we thought, oh, you know what? The weather's really nice. We'll go to a rooftop bar. So we thought maybe we'd find a different rooftop bar than our rooftop bar. That's not true. Our rooftop bar, I think, is
The rooftop bar.
rooftop bar. So at the Autograph Hotel in Bilbao, that is the bar to be at if you want a beautiful view of the city. And I will say, on the Saturday night, the owners of the hotel. Do you remember this? You didn't
Yeah.
hear it in your room, but there was an exclusive party. So they closed the upstairs. The bar was closed for a private event on Saturday evening, and it was so loud.
Hello, they didn't invite us. So.
Yeah, but also, it sounded as if we were in a nightclub. It went on till probably 3 a.m.
And I have to say, if you own a hotel and you're going to throw a huge party, either invite the guests, close the hotel, or at least give them a free drink the following day.
Exactly, or a discount, sorry for the interruption, the party went late, here's a 20% off your next day or something. But yeah, I would have been happy if we were invited, but
Yeah, exactly. And then also, it was just like little things, with like waiting forever to get food. We ordered a glass of the famous chacoli or chacoli, and
Exactly.
it got slammed on the table when it
Yes.
came with the waitress. So overall, I would say beautiful place to stay, but the service at the Ercilla Marriott in Bilbao needs a little bit of herb.
And we should talk about the taxi drivers because they're super friendly, super chatty. The one we had coming into the city, very friendly, and he told us that he was leaving because the English fans were showing up for the finals.
Yes.
We left on the Sunday, the fans had already started coming in, and I think some of the whatever. I don't follow football, but
Yeah.
the pre-game celebrations,
Shenanigans.
started on the Monday. We came back the Sunday, and Monday in all the papers, the news, online, the fans. Well, and I'm very sorry, it's the English fans who trashed the city.
Yeah.
Climbing up balconies, trashed hotel rooms, and we were actually at a little bar. I don't know if you remember this. We were on the Sunday, we were just walking around,
Yes.
and we stopped in a little bar. And I mean, keep in mind, the restaurants there rely on, they rely on their locals, but they also need the turnover, So there was an English couple sitting, or a family sitting at a table, and he wasn't rude. He just said, listen, I need the table at 3 because I have paying customers who are going to order
eat.
food.
Yes.
And you've had your drink, so you have up until 3. Oh, well, things started to boil, And
Yes.
I said to Laura, I was like, that's going to kick off. So let's leave.
Go.
So we left. And literally within 24 hours, Bilbao's all over international news that football fans trashed the city, restaurants, ripped down street signs, climbed up balconies.
So for our British listeners, we love you, and we know not everybody's a hooligan. Okay.
Or also don't send the hooligans to the...
limit their visits. So that was a little bit about the experience at the Ercilla. Again, I would say maybe worth exploring some different options, but still a really, really good option. And then I think we should talk about what is coming up next.
Oh, this is, I think this should be on people's bucket list.
Yes, so next we're going to take about Getxo. And we're also going to talk about Dragonstone, also known as San Juan de Gaztelugatxe, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful place. So hopefully you're going to be joining us for that. So Getxo and San Juan de Gaztelugatxe, and please remember to follow us on socials, subscribe. We want to hear from you. We absolutely love hearing requests, recommendations of places that you want us to go to, and really, really appreciate our listeners. And with that, we are going to go to our sentence of the day. So, Nalini, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, the sentence of the day today is going to be very politically correct. I am going to keep it kosher, as they say. Going to see how you do. So, a otra cosa, mariposa.
Okay. So these words I do understand.
So, tell me what the words mean.
Another thing, something but butterfly.
Mm-hmm. So, a otra cosa, mariposa, which kind of means, what do you think it means?
I don't know. I mean, I would say it just means that something else.
So it kind of means, okay, you know what? Let's move on to something else. It could be in a relationship, for example, where it's like, okay, you know what? A otra cosa mariposa. So it's like if you've just something that, let's say, for example, someone tells you, one of your friends tells you that they've broken up with someone and you're trying to cheer them up. You go, a otra cosa mariposa, like just moving on to the next.
Move on.
Was that little TikTok song, if you're done with your ex, move on to the next? So kind of like that little reference there of a otra cosa mariposa. I just think it's a really cute one. So, butterflies kind of casually go from one thing to another. So that's what it kind of talks about.
That's a cute one. I like it.
So next coming up is episode 3, season 3. We really hope you join us. Thank you very much for listening to the episode. And again, thank you very much for being part of our community.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.
The Made in Spain podcast is an Everything's Rosy production, with executive producers and host Nalini Sharma and Laura Senior, with special thanks to production assistant Ayrton Nath.